Welcome to Sculpture Studios. Over the past few years, Sculpture Studios has been responsible for creating the giant BAFTA heads that you would see on stage for the Film and Television Awards ceremony. Now in a similar project we're creating golden heads once again, with a different design, and this is for the Royal Television Awards. Here you can see the design that we've been sent, and the client wants these made in 4 different sizes that are going to be fixed onto the wall behind the stage. Talking through the best method to approach this, we asked the client for a 3D model to be sent to us so that we can take a mould and create our own working model to scale up from. Here we're using silicone rubber, and it's first applied with a brush to get into all the detail, and this eliminates any air bubbles. The rest of the space is then filled and the whole mould is left to set. We're going to be creating 12 heads in total, 2 of the larger size around 1.7 metres square, 2 at 1 metre, 2 at 0.7 and 6 of the smaller size around 0.4. Many methods of creating sculpture nowadays involve CAD and 3D access cutting machines, which work out to be very accurate but also very expensive. We prefer using old-fashioned methods that are much more affordable and cost-effective for our clients, and it gives our work a personal touch and yet still retains a professional and handmade finish. We begin the larger sizes by scaling up using an overhead projector and marking it out onto polystyrene. The peripheral of each head is cut out using a hot wire table, and the pieces are then ready to be carved. One thing we needed to consider, as well as scaling up 2-dimensionally, was that each head also needed to be scaled up in depth, so that whatever angle you're looking at it, it's a true enlargement. Aden's using the usual nail brushes, rifflers and sandpapers to take the material away and to create a nice form. We're working on all the different sizes simultaneously so that we can retain a level of uniformity in the carving process. As we know that there'll always be some kind of cleaning up required later on down the line, we're using clay slip on the polystyrene pattern here, and this just helps us lose that poly bead surface. This way when the mould comes out, it's relatively smooth, and we're basically eliminating any extensive cleaning up once the casts have been made. On the 3 larger scale versions of the heads, we're taking a plaster mould and creating what's known as a waste mould. This is when it's only strong enough to take 1 or 2 casts from, and then the mould is disposed of. For production runs where more casts need to be taken, we would create a stronger mould in glass fibre, but a plaster mould is perfect and more cost effective for this level of production. We're using plaster of Paris and scrim material to make it light but relatively strong. We then reinforce the back with wooden battens, which helps it keep its form once we're moving it around. Once again we're cleaning up the mould every step of the way to save more work on the fiberglass cast later. We're smoothing down the interior with metal kidneys while the plaster is relatively fresh and still quite soft. We're using the same process on the 3 larger size of head, first by coating the polystyrene with foil, and then we're using the plaster of Paris and scrim material to make the mould. Later you'll be able to see the silicone mould we're creating for the smaller size head, as more than 2 casts will need to be made. Before we've gone on with any fiberglass or resin, we've actually added a button polish to seal the plaster. We do this to create a nice seal between the 2 materials, as the water moisture in the plaster usually prevents the resin from curing properly. We go over this with a PVA blue release agent so the cast is easier to extract without damaging the mould, as we still need to get 1 more cast from it. We're using Class O rated resin on these sculptures for fire regulations, as they're going to be placed inside with a captive audience. This is always important for indoor installations. We're laminating these with a layup of 4 ounces of glass fibre with an extended build-up around the edges, which acts as a strong frame for it to be handled by. Waste moulds are sometimes only good for creating 1 cast from, so we had to make a judgment call here and make a high quality mould that we handled with care. Any damages that did occur, like cracking in the plaster, we were able to patch in with clay and then seal it before laying up a second cast. When the fiberglass is set, the casts are extracted, the excess material is trimmed off the edges, and the cleaning up process begins. We need to make sure that the sculpture sits flat on the floor, so likewise it will sit flush against the wall when it's installed on site. Here's the smallest version of the heads being cleaned up now, ready for its mould to be made. As mentioned earlier, this mould is going to be made from silicone rubber, and it's made in this material for a number of reasons. The rubber can withstand the pulling and manipulation and movement of creating multiple casts, as we're going to need 6 heads of this size, and for a smaller item like this where the design is much finer, silicone rubber is much better at retaining the detail. Even for this smaller version, we're still laying up each cast with 4 ounces of glass fibre, so that all the models are built to the same strength. Once all the casts have been made and cleaned up, we go over with a spray of grey primer to prepare the surface for artworking. Much like the BAFTA awards, these heads are being finished in a gold metallic spray, shiny enough to look expensive and to catch the light, but not so glossy and reflective that they're a distraction on stage and that they don't interfere with the lights and the cameras. Here they are now in our studio, all finished and ready to be picked up and delivered to the various locations for the many different award ceremonies. We'd like to thank Rick Johnson from Frames Design and Build for entrusting us with the work, and we hope they look as good on stage and screen as the people collecting the awards themselves. We look forward to many projects to come. Please feel free to leave any comments below, as they're always appreciated, and hit the subscribe button for our latest videos. You can like Sculpture Studios on Facebook, and for more of our work, visit sculpturestudios.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching.